Bang! Here we are again on Yonkers Voice, and our guest today, I call her my guest of honor because we have guests and we have guests. And this is one of the top guests. I enjoy talking to Angelique. We've been talking to each other for many years. And let me tell you guys, this interview today was not easy. I've been after this for how long?
Oh, a while.
A while.
A few years, maybe.
But it couldn't be a better time because this month is Transgender Awareness Month. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Angelique, thank you for taking the time and making this happen.
Oh, you're welcome.
I could give you an introduction on who is Angelique, so you guys could know about her involvement, not just on the transgender community, but also in the community of Yonkers. A very well-known person. I'm going to let her give her own bio.
Sounds
Do it.
good. So first I want to say that I lived in the city of Yonkers for over 40 years. And every single thing that I've ever done for the city was on a volunteer basis. It cost me money to do all of these things. I never was paid a dime from the city of Yonkers. So that's the first piece. And then some of my passion points were always about history and landmarks and things like that. And I was appointed member of the Landmarks Preservation Board for 10 years, starting first with Mayor Phil Amacone, and then continuing through Mayor Mike Spano. It's an appointment. There's specific requirements to be on that board in terms of your knowledge. I'm a local historian, an awarded, recognized, blah, 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 local historian. I have my own Facebook group with 10,000 plus people talking about historic Yonkers, and I started it 7 years ago, and I'm the only admin because I want to keep it true to its purpose. So that's just one piece. Another piece was, for me, as a transgender person, when the mayor created these advisory boards, there's 8 of them, I think, there may be more now, he created an LGBTQ advisory board.
I'm still not sure about that.
One of the key pieces is to have representation throughout the LGBTQ community. At the time, I was really the only visible, recognizable transgender person. And so it was a natural thing because my involvements were at the corporate level, and now then at the municipal level. Again, all volunteer. And in 2018, the board created the first Pride that Yonkers ever had in 300 some odd years. And it was perfect, went flawless. And so these are the things, when you have people who are engaged with the community, who know people, you can make stuff happen, and it's all good, all positive. I spent 41 years in the advertising industry, and I retired in 2018 at the age of 63. And I could not afford to live in the city of Yonkers, or in fact anywhere downstate, because when you're retired, you don't have a lot of money. So
there is exceptions because I know about those 2 or 3 millions you got in the bank.
yeah, wouldn't that be nice? So anyway, I'm going on and on, but my point of all of this is that I was asked to be on the board of trustees of the Hudson River Museum because I am a recognized historian, and of course it's a cultural institution, but a historic museum, as well as a place where we want people to come in and see themselves. So tremendous diversity in the people who work there, the people who are junior docents. So it just, to see representation on a board, and again, this is not a paid position, you're expected to give money, because it's a fiduciary thing. So I give money to the museum. I don't take money, and then I can't give the amounts that usually are asked for, so I give back in kind,
Now, guys, let me apologize because they are telling me that the sound is too low, but I don't want to interrupt and restart it, so we might need to speak a little louder.
Okay.
Almost like you're screaming at me, but we are not. And guys, let me also apologize. I know that some people are saying, well, Ru is interviewing Angie, but is that, playing with his iPad. I'm actually monitoring the questions, the involvement. So if somebody wants to ask a question, I can see it and I can ask Angie. So
Yeah.
I'm not being rude.
No, well, that's part of what, what an interview or
Exactly.
discussion is all about. So I don't know. Hopefully this sound is better. I don't know.
Well, we're going to keep it. They can
Okay.
raise the volume on that side as well, but we are going to
Okay.
speak a little louder, and you guys raise the volume.
Okay, so just to backtrack, not a lot, but everything I did for the city of Yonkers was volunteer. I never made a dime. It cost me money. I spent a decade on the Landmarks Board, a bunch of years on the LGBTQ Advisory Board, appointment from the mayor. And so again, I'm giving, I'm not getting. And my whole mission, at least in the transgender space, has been to empower our youth to see somebody who's done it. And people say, well, you're white, you have privilege. Well,
but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. So otherwise, you're going to answer all the questions that I have for you. So let's. Guys, but before we go further, let me give a shout out to my sponsor, Legacy, and even the pants are. You see it?
Yeah, I see Legacy.
Legacy, 371 Warburton Avenue, Gus. Go there, great products, great merchandise, and let me tell you, top quality. Go and check it out. Legacy 371 Warburton Avenue, right here in the city of Yonkers. Actions, not words. But this month, okay, why is this month special? Let's maybe not so long of an answer because we want to keep our viewers there engaged. Why is this month special? Some people say, look, we don't have a special day for straight guys. We don't have a special day for this. And I often say, but straight guys did not have a hard time as the transgender community had for all these years.
Right.
So tell me, what's so special?
Okay, so it's Transgender Awareness Week and month. And then there's another day of remembrance for those who've been murdered because of who they were, And this year was the worst of all the years, the most murders. And it's sad because most of these individuals are people of color, which is another intersectionality piece. So not only are you trans, but you're a person of color and whatever other things it might be impacting your life. So what's special about it is the beginning, the Transgender Week, is about celebrating people, celebrating our contributions, not just because we're transgender. It's because what did we do for the community? What did we do for humanity to make a difference? That's the key. So it's not just like, every group that has is marginalized, let's say, has some kind of celebratory holidays, and they're to call attention to the positive things that community of individuals does. So, yes, New York, we're in pretty good shape. California, pretty good shape. Lots of other parts of the country, not so much. So many different issues going on. Just to live, it's like society makes it a challenge just to be yourself. Why should it be a challenge? It's like, so if you're not challenged, you're very lucky. I mean, if you have no real issues in society, as a white male or whatever, then you don't have a problem. But it's to uplift.
But look, sometimes I talk to people on the street, or I talk to my friends that are transgender or they're bisexual or gay, regardless of gender, okay? And I tell them, like, I really don't care. I don't look at you based on your sexual preference or on who you are. I look at you as a human being. Isn't it time to say, look, I don't want a special day for bisexual, transgender, or whatever. I just want to be treated the same way as all of you are.
Well, once we get there, you won't need it all.
We have to get there, right, Angie?
Until we get there, then we need Black History Month. We need, Diwali. We need all these different festivals and holidays, whether they're focused on uplifting a community or just to call attention that we're nice people, no matter who we are. Until we get there, it's not going to happen. Until people get educated and understand that. I mean, it was best said by a person that I knew that, we're your family, we're your friends, we're your coworkers, we're your neighbors, we're everywhere. And some people just have to hide who they are, and that's sad. So I'm here just to inspire. That's it.
And I am inspired by you. But there is many people out there that are not inspired by you, by me. They stuck in their old ways. We saw an exchange the other day of certain people. And I told one of them, you are a good example of what the problem is.
Yeah, well, see, this is...
We're not going to mention names.
No, we're not. But my thing has always been, look, if we, the more visible we are, like me, the more vulnerable we are, and the more prone to be involved in some kind of violence against us. That's the problem. That's why you got a lot of people just kind of wishing they could. And so, again, people just need to understand, and it's almost impossible. Like, nobody's going to walk in my shoes, right? You don't know what my life is like or what my thought process was trying to figure myself out at 4 years old when there was nobody. At 1959, 4 years old. Didn't exist.
That was my next question. When did you came to realization of who you were? And how was the environment? How did people see you? Because I know that it was much harder back then. But nevertheless, it's not easy, still today, for too many people. How was your life back then, Angie? And what would you have, or what would you say to a parent today that might have a child that is showing that maybe she was born in the wrong gender? What would you tell them?
Okay, so I will use, it's a complex question. In 1959, when I was 4, the word didn't exist. There were no people to look at, so I just thought I was weird, and I kept on going for years until others started to come out to say, no, this is really who I am. And now you realize that it's becoming, our younger generations are realizing, yeah, I can be myself. I can be my real, authentic self. And it comes from your brain. It doesn't come from body parts or chromosomes. It's yourself. Think about it. There's 8.7 billion people on this earth, and no two are the same. Could we all fit into these neat little buckets? No, we don't. And so for children, I'll just say this to parents, that if you have a child, 4, 5, 6 years old, whatever, and it's relentless, not just sometimes kids go through phases, I get that. But when it's every day, relentless, it's time to listen to your child. It's not some mental disorder. It's not some psychological thing. It's their brains telling them who they are. So recognize that. Allow them to be themselves. And I'll close with that question with my own mother. When I told her, she was 90 years old.
When you told her?
When I told her. I waited years before I told my mother. And her reaction, which I was afraid of how she was going to react, she just said, okay. And I said, wait, what? Okay? How would that just be okay?
I waited, all these years for this?
Yeah, I'm like, I got an okay. And so she said to me, look, you know something? The most important job of a parent, even though I'm a much older parent and you're a much older child, sort of, is to make sure that your children are happy. And if you're telling me you're happy, then I'm happy. Case closed. Listen to your kids. They know who they are. And, most of them don't have an issue with recognizing.
But Angie, do the parents actually know who their children are? Because look, I have friends that it's clearly that the kids, 1 or 2 might be transgender. Everybody sees it, but them. Okay, and maybe then in 20, 30, or 40, 50 years, they come back to the mother and say, Mom, I have something that I want to tell you. Is it really possible that the mother had no idea? Did your mother really did not know, Angie?
I think she had a suspicion, which is why she didn't react the way I thought she was going to react. But, it depends on your connection with your children. Some parents are very distant to their kids. And you know, the whole love in the family, whatever, it's distant. Yeah, they love their kids, but they're not in tune with them. And, you know, it's as much of a two-way street as anything. I mean, I have one friend, I have many friends, but I have one friend who comes from a family of four. All were born with an M on their birth certificate. Two of them transitioned as females, and they're beautiful people. One of the males is gay, and the other one is a straight white guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, they're of color, but the point being that it's not in the water. It's in your brain, and that's the key thing. We just have to allow ourselves to be ourselves, and not worry about that piece because it impedes us from contributing to the community. If you're sitting there at a desk every day worried that somebody's going to like look at you crosswise, you're taking time away from being productive.
This is a comment from Lucy Marrero. I think you know who Lucy is, right?
I think so.
I think so, yeah. Lucy says, I love them the way they are. They are just people.
Lucy's spot on. They are just people. I mean, look, the other pieces, think about it, and it's cliche, but they say that, you know, the person that you hide might be the person that someone else could love. But by not being yourself, that's a problem. And I always think, too, that we hold the key. We might, by being our real selves, if you're not, you might hold the key to make the world a real better place. But if you don't allow yourself to be yourself, if you're like me, who was kind of under wraps for so many years, you know, and once I was visible, and I was still on boards, and the boards all said, we don't care. We care what you contribute. We don't care who you are in essence of that. So, you know, that's the way we have to look at the world.
Again, I'm not going to mention names, but I have to say this. When we announced our interview, I saw a few comments, and one of the comments was, why should we have a month, a week for them because of who they preferred to be? Preferred, that was the thing. And my question to this person, I said, look, in my opinion, the comment that you made is extremely stupid. Did you prefer to be stupid, or that was the way you were born?
Well, look, this is not a preference.
Exactly.
It's who I am. And, you know, it takes a hell of a lot to turn your world upside down after having all of this things that you're doing and go from this male persona with a mustache hidden to the person I really am. And you know what? This is why people will say, well, you're old, you're this, you're that, I was 14 at the time that Stonewall riots happened in 1969. But you know what? If I can be there as an example to the younger folks to say, if I can do it, you can do it. And you can. That's the key to the whole thing.
The whole thing is motivation, is change
you just
mindset.
Have to understand yourself and say, look, this is who I am. I had a fireside chat, you know, one of those like we're doing, except we have no fire and there's no fire here. But with a lady by the name of Mila Jam.
What do you mean? What do you mean we have no fire
well,
here?
You. We need we'll turn the TV on with that rotisserie thing that people put on Christmas.
She's been humble. Angie is fire. She's a bomb.
Well, I know about that. But here's the point, that I spoke with this lady, Mila Jam. She's got tens of thousands and one of her songs got 2 million hits or whatever. She is black. She is transgender. She's 32 years old. She's a performer in her own right. But she also is a senior advisor to this very important group. It's a global group that works with companies to showcase employees. So it's not just about being transgender. It's about, what do you do for the world? What do you do for the community? You know, and that's where I'm a historian. I'm an advertising person. I'm out there trying to help people. That's all. There's no, and yes, people say, well, you're a white person. Well, yes, That's not one of my challenges. But now as a senior citizen, that's a challenge. As a transgender person, that's a challenge. And there's others. And we all have challenges. So the job in life, overcome that challenge or the challenges and show up, shine a light to others that, hey, look, this is one way you can try to do it. And then they can look at other people and see how they have successfully done it. And again, that lovely lady I spoke with yesterday, Mila Jam, she had the same sort of process. Her mother embraced her after a while, and now she's out there, a superstar performer and recording artist. I'd look her up. She's incredible. And we had such a great conversation.
Now, before we go further, there is a comment here from Isanel Pimentel. Thank you for logging in. Thank you for watching. And her question is, how can we as a community help educate more people? One of the ways is by sharing this interview, by allowing others to watch. Hopefully we can change mindsets. Hopefully somebody will watch and say, I didn't see it from that angle. I didn't understand. Maybe I need to change my ways. That's one way, because we would love people to share the positive educational, broadcasts that we put out in order to help changing mindsets. What is another way, Angie? How can people get in touch with you or get in touch with organizations? Are organizations here in Yonkers that deal with these situations?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many different avenues. When we think about that, I mean, personally, I do a lot of free lectures. I did one to this diversity group of PTAs in Yonkers. That was really cool and very good. It educates, teaches. I hate the word train because I'm not a trainer. Like you do that with dogs and cats. Well, cats don't want to listen to you anyway. But so there's that. There is the Loft, which is a wonderful organization for kids. LOFT. You can look it online. They have so many great programs for parents and kids, and LGBTQ is the thematic there. So every day they got something going on, and that's a great local organization. There's so many others. Parents and Friends, PFLAG, PFLAG has chapters all over the country where you can get in touch with people. If you're concerned about your child being transgender and you don't know exactly how to deal with it, tons of resources out there. Free, they're not going to charge you money. And this is a great way to just explore. Even in Manhattan, there's a group called Callen Lord, CALLENLORDE. They are a medical facility, and they have all sorts of other services, psychiatric, everything you can think of. I've been with that doctor group for years, and they helped me go to A to Z and actually do some of the processing of the paperwork I needed to do all the changes that I needed to do document-wise. So Callen Lord, wonderful facility. And there's many, many others, that are top-notch. But the Loft is a real good one locally.
Yeah. Angie, I have covered some very sad situations in Yonkers that ended with suicide. And some of them was because of lack of understanding for the person who committed suicide in relationship to the family. They felt alienated, they felt left out, they felt terrible, that the only way out was by ending their lives. It's sad, it's terrible.
It's, statistically, right? 46% of all transgender people in that neighborhood of percentages have tried once to kill themselves, at least once. And the sad part is when they succeed. And what it comes down to is they understand who they are. I know who I am. But it's the hate, the bullying, the relentless, and the lack of allies. Allies are critical. We all need to have friends that visibly and verbally will support us. And sometimes they don't, based on where they live. based on this situation. That's the tragedy, right? And then a good friend of mine in San Francisco, a comedian, Daphne Dorman, you can look her up. She killed herself. She killed herself leaving a 5-year-old daughter. Can you imagine killing yourself because you just couldn't take the hate anymore? And the only way out seemed to be, you know, removing yourself from the world. I just think that's so tragic. And it can be helped. But the key is the community has to step up and say, hey, you're just a nice person. We like you. You're okay. Or even if you don't like them, don't say anything. Because it's that whole, you're weird, you're crazy, you're different, you know, and then the use of language. It's just like everyone else. With any kind of challenge, you need to have support.
Now, Angie, what about our schools? Because children are very cruel. Okay? Kids say whatever they need to say, whatever they want to say, whatever they think they have to say. And sometimes they think that it looks cool because of the things that they say or do towards other kids. Mm-hmm. Kids that are transgender, but still at school age, that they have not come to terms yet with themselves, even though the people around them can see who they are, okay, and might bully them. Our schools, when I say our schools, I don't mean Yonkers. I'm talking about schools in general. Are they equipped with people that can counsel and prevent and avoid?
Well, some are and some aren't, and that's why you see organizations like YSEPTA, which is the aggregate of all the PTAs around in Yonkers, showing the message of diversity and inclusion and why it's important in the school systems. And then, you know, there's education that needs to be done with our own teachers. You know, I mean, and it's not like people don't know how to deal with it. But sometimes just listening to someone telling you how to deal with it when it happens, it provides an avenue. Like, I can make this happen. I can make this. So I'm not putting it all on the teachers because they have enough to do. But critically, if you're in tune with it, if you see it, you can help to mitigate some of these issues. And then also, you know, it's about the parents too. I mean, parents. You know, as I'm a parent, my kids are not kids anymore. But if you teach them well, you teach them, hey, there's lots of people out there. Embrace them. You may not like everybody, so don't bother with them. But embrace the people you see. Don't diss them. Don't give a hard time, and don't bully them, for God's sakes. You know, some are very fragile. I'm not, but most are. Not most. A lot of them are.
Prince, I agree with you when you make this comment. This is a comment from Prince. This is one of the most important interviews in the Yonkers Voice history. Angelique Piwiski. I agree with you, Prince, because these are the interviews that can change or help change the mindset. Things that are important. These are the types of interviews that we wish the community would get more involved, that the community would share. Because look, all of us might have somebody in our family that might be, okay, in that, I don't know if the classification, I don't know what would be the right word, that might be transgender, that want to come out but don't come out because they're afraid of what the people around them will think. Personally, I couldn't care less, okay? When friends of mine tell me, well, I'm gay, and? Because...
Well, exactly. and you know what? The other piece is...
you want a trophy?
When we talk... Yeah. Well, when you talk about challenges, right? So, yes, it's difficult to come out as a gay man or a lesbian woman or bisexual, whichever bucket you want to put yourself in, which I hate buckets anyway. But when you're transgender and you're actually going to do some transitioning, all of a sudden, not only are you telling person, but you're changing everything about you, if you want to. Not everyone does. So, you know, I think that, you know, so much of it, again, I stress that if you don't have to look over your shoulder every 5 minutes worrying about somebody's going to find out something about you, you can focus 100% attention and give back to the community. Come up with those great things. we're stronger in our diversity. We're stronger when every voice, no matter where, country of origin, gender, LGBTQ, whatever, has a voice. If everyone has a voice, like Yonkers' voice, then it makes the community better. So I'm just out here saying, I'm just showing you myself. And I hope, and I see now that there are others who are younger, who are becoming visible. And so my legacy is, again, I moved. I'm not in Yonkers right now, but the key here is allow those young voices to talk to you.
Now, guys, those that are watching, get involved. If you have a question, if you have a suggestion, if you want to say something, write it up. I'm reading it. I'm watching what you write, and I'm reading, and I will ask Angie, okay, anything that you ask, if it's in the context of what we are talking about. Without saying rude comments, comments that are made with the intent to hurt and to disrupt the interview will be dealt with. And when I say that, you know what I do to comments like this. I remove you from the page. So I have nothing against comments. I have nothing against you expressing your point of view. Sometimes I have a problem with the way you express those point of views, because I know that you can articulate what you want to say without being offensive.
Well, and quite frankly, if you got a question, ask it in a respectful way, and not just me, but anybody.
In general, yeah.
In general, and I'm happy to answer questions that you have a burning desire to know, because it will help you know more about people like me, and others. So, yeah, ask the question. Be respectful. I don't care how you ask it, because you don't know the right politically correct language. That's okay. It really is okay, and I don't mind people doing that, and I think it's great when they do, because it shows they're listening. And if you don't like what I'm saying, turn the channel.
Well, exactly, because look, it doesn't matter what the subject is, you're always going to find some people that like and some people that don't. No matter what you do, you will always have people that support you and people that don't. In my own home, it's only 6 or 7 of us, and sometimes it's hard to make everybody agree in one thing. So imagine in a very large platform. Talk about today comparing to 20, 30 years ago, Angie, when you were coming around.
Well, there's a key here. We have miles to go before we get to where we need to be. Just to be like everybody, accepted members of a community. And there's only one way to get there, and that is to contribute, as others do. When I was growing up, I reference back to when I was 14 in 1969, the Stonewall riots were happening. It was illegal to dress in a way that did not coincide with the sex marker on your birth certificate. You could be arrested. I mean, really? Halloween was my favorite holiday because I could be anything I wanted to, but one day a year doesn't quite cut it, right? So the key here is, yes, we've progressed. Some places we've taken steps back. You look around the world, there's issues in different countries, and other countries are really enlightened. They get it. I did I do these seminar kind of things with school systems and corporations and county governments, and my best was Washington, D.C. government, which was really cool. Rural county in Maryland, very conservative farming community, and I got some great questions. They were asked out of respect. I was talking about the thing about pronouns, how important that is to simply respect people. And this lady asked the question. I couldn't see them, but she asked the question. She said, if somebody asked me what my pronouns were, I would be insulted. And I said, you know what? You're right. But it's not about you. It's about, you're in a room full of people you don't know, and sometimes you don't know who they are. So allow them to introduce themselves in a way that, let them use pronouns, he, she, whatever. And in some cases, there's like 500 different variations on a theme. But let them tell you who they are. And it's a great transition device, too, because all of a sudden somebody that you thought was he and him is now going to say she and her. Mm-hmm. And it's a real easy way to break an ice and don't react. It's like, okay, great.
Now, let me, Cameline C. White makes a statement. Tell Angie that I admire the bravery to come to be interviewed and be in the public eye. Maybe that will inspire younger people in the life to come out and be themselves. Thank you, Ru. Cameline, do a little more. Share this interview so other people can see it, other people can listen, and maybe we can change other mindsets and accomplish the thing that you just said needs to be accomplished. Natasha de la Cuadra. People need to be educated on the difference and realize that being transgender and gay are two different things. They aren't the same. And she writes this in capital letters. Please educate us.
Okay. One of my favorite topics, right? The LGBTQIA plus acronym, right? All these letters. So I talk about that in these groups. There's really two parts, and she's absolutely spot on. There's the who you are, and there's the who you love. So the who you love part is gay, usually men against men with men. Sometimes women identify as gay, but it's just how they prefer instead of lesbian. Same thing, the bisexuals, people who love men and women, fine. Then there's the asexual, people who don't love anybody, but like they have a romantic thing, but it's not a sexual thing. The intersex thing is one of the most fascinating things. 1 in 1,500 births. When that baby comes out and the doctor or nurse or whoever's, accepting the baby from the mom, you have a healthy baby, but I don't know if this is a girl or a boy. 1 in 1,500. Why is that? Because there's 8.7 billion people on this planet. And yeah, a lot of times the children are what they call intersex. Some of the sex organs will be inside, some will be partially formed, and it's not just XX and YY or XY, it's XXX. It's, XX, all the different kinds. Some organs in people have the male chromosome and the female chromosome. Go figure that out. And it affects but 1 in 1,500, it's not 1 in a million. Go to YouTube, type in the word intersex. There's some wonderful speakers who will talk about their lives. It is eye-opening.
Now, there are some terms that in today's vocabulary are considered offensive. But there is people from an older generation, like I, that might say certain things not because we want to be offensive, but because that's a term that was used when I was a child. And let me give you an example. Many years ago, when I was a child, and if we saw somebody who was mentally challenged, the term retarded was used, not because we wanted to be offensive towards that person, because that was what was used back then. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that stuck to us, because that's how we grew up with those words. Today, it became offensive. The other day, it was offensive because somebody said Tigro. Maybe that person grew up with that term when he was much younger, okay, and is not offensive to him. Some people say we shouldn't address people as by color, like the person is black, people of color. So terminologies now must be politically correct.
Well, and respectful is the key.
It's not the word, it's the respect.
Yeah, it's like, okay, T-girl is one of those things where it's typically a sex worker. I mean, it's
okay.
It's not a good, it's transgender, trans woman, trans man, whatever. But it just like the word sex change way back when. Well, now we realize we're not changing the sex. What we're doing is affirming the gender. So it's gender affirmation surgery or different. So it's really about understanding and respecting better. It's not, lots of derogatory things. I remember uh, as a little kid in Brooklyn, where I grew up, big neighborhood, all kinds of different people. And my mother would send, she goes, okay, take your dad's shirts, like he wore white shirts all the time, in a blue collar job, go figure that, to the Chinks. And I thought that was the name of the store. But it was, I mean, think about it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go there. Like, and of course it was Chinese individuals running a store, laundry, you know. And when I came to finally realize it, how terrible is that? Couldn't you just say go to the laundry place or whatever? But that was the common usage, and I guess I just I never explored it at that time period. But to me, it's horrible, like disgusting. And so those are the kind of things where society is evolving, fortunately, where we're replacing some of this old crap with more respectful terms, and that's how it's the building blocks to a better society. You know, so many. I mean, we could talk for hours about it, but
We sure could.
the key here is what's the most respectful way you can address a person. It doesn't matter who the person is. Again, 8.7 billion people. We're all different.
You know, Angie, I heard somebody saying one time, love is love is love is love. Respect is respect is respect is respect. Respect should not be given based on who you are as a person, but respect should be given to another human person as long as you get the respect back. It's mutual.
Of course it is. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you have to realize that even though people may be different than you, it doesn't mean that they're not nice people. It means they're just different than you, and they have different points of view based on their life experiences. So, in my life experience, over the course of years, yeah, I've seen a whole lot of stuff. And it's evolved, in some cases, taken steps back. But it does come down to respect. It's like, look, it's your life, not mine. You live it the way you should live it. I'm pretty religious. So to me, it's like, people like, well, God didn't make mistakes. I'm like, no, God doesn't make mistakes, but he gives us challenges. And this gender thing was mine along with others. And other people have different challenges. And the key here, overcome the challenge, show the path forward to others who may be stuck in that and don't know where to go. And that's why I do this.
John Morrison from Brother to Brother is watching us. John, you also have a platform and you might have a point of view or statement that you'd like to make. Let us know what you think about this subject. Now, a question for Isanel Pimentel. I have a question. What has been the most challenging thing for you once you decided to show the world who you are?
Okay. This is an interesting thing because the most challenging thing for me was coming out in the workplace. I was already an executive vice president of a company. I was the person who wrote the contracts, who had the relationships with the clients. And you'd think, well, that's privilege. Well, it is if I didn't want to change anything. My concern, my fear, was why I waited a long time was because if a client said to me, "You're nuts. We don't want to work with you," and I had a major client in North Carolina, the home of the bathroom bills and all that, and that was concerned. Like if they said to me, "You're crazy. We're gonna find somebody else to do our work," then I put 50 people and their families out of work. That to me would be unconscionable. And so that's why I waited and waited and waited and finally got to the point where I tried to align all the dots as best as I could to sort of pave it there. And I used a friend to help me, an ally at the company, the big company. And he paved the way for me. He had the conversation. And you know what? The guy I was most afraid of became my best buddy, my best ally, and wrote me the most beautiful email I've ever received in my life. That's a learning. The people you're most afraid of, all of a sudden, you'd be surprised. They're going to be your best allies. And so
But
that
they
was
can become
my
your worst
learning.
enemies as well.
Well, they can be, but you know what? What this guy said to me, he said, I don't care what you change on the outside, but don't change anything on the inside because God got it right the first time.
Wow.
I mean, that's the gist of the note, which is short, but it's hanging on my wall.
Powerful, powerful statement, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Powerful.
So,
Guys, digest on that. Now, Angie, if you look at your life now and you said, well, I could have changed a few things, what would you have changed? Would you have come out in the same, what I'm asking is, would you have come out much earlier on your life? Or did you come out, would you still come out when you came out? Would you have done anything differently?
you know, I've thought about that question a lot. And here's the thing. We live our lives from moment to moment. The thing that inspired me to finally be myself was several people I knew who died, you know, natural causes. And I'm thinking they're much younger than me. Maybe they wanted to be, you know, maybe they never lived authentically. And so I thought, you know what? I don't want to be like next to that bed watching that little thing beep down till it stops and thinking, God, I should have done something. And so you know, timing is everything. I mean, had I understood myself years before, I mean, you have no idea. I went into my mother's closet as a kid and played dress up while she wasn't home at 5 years old. Like, there's no fantasy, no fetish, nothing. It's just, it made me feel good. And then over time, I kept dreaming about how could I, and then eventually I just said, you know what, I just can't deal with it. I lived my life. I was happy, you know, enough. Um, but eventually the power inside just drills at you and you just have to do something. And that's, you know, it was later in life, but I wouldn't have changed anything because I learned a lot from it. Yes, I lost some friends, I lost some family people. And you know, there's some people you're never going to get through to. It's just the way it is.
Well, you would not have done anything different. But because of your experiences, you might be able to change other people's lives at a much earlier stage than when you change yours. Mm-hmm. Angelique, is it at the museum, coffee shop, or having one of those great steaks that you tease me with all the time? And this little boy or little girl recognizes you and comes to you and say, Angelique, I saw you interview at Yonkers Voice, and I am like you, but I'm afraid.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. That has happened to me.
Wait,
multiple times.
And they told you they saw you on Yonkers Voice?
No, I wasn't on Yonkers Voice.
Oh.
The first time I was asked back in 2015 to be the inspirational speaker at the American Association of Advertising Agencies yearly diversity luncheon, right? Something like 500 people in this audience. I've never in my life talked to 500 people in front of me live, pre-COVID, of course. And my message to that group was, it's never too late to be yourself. And, you know, at that point I said, oh, and by the way, after I was talking, I just turned 60 at the time. And people were like, so even the guy who was running the thing goes, damn, you look good at 60. But a couple weeks later, I was at another event, and a young person came up to me and said, "You're Angie, right?" I said, "Yeah." "You talked about the thing," and yeah. Well, he said, "I was there, and I listened to that message, and it was powerful. And you know what? I changed my life the next day. I told people who I really was, and I said, 'How did it work out for you?' He said, 'I'm ecstatic. I'm happy.' People said, 'Well, we already know. We already knew.' But you don't know the reactions you're going to get. And so it's happened on many other occasions too, where people come up to me and said, 'You changed my life.' I talked to a Catholic high school group in Manhattan a few years back. I was invited by the guidance counselor. They have a GSA, which is a gay student, group. And I just talked to them about myself and my, and they sent me this beautiful card, which I actually posted on LinkedIn. And one student, I blotted out the last names and the guidance counselor's last name and the school name because I didn't want, But one person said, "You changed me." I mean, that is powerful. And even if I didn't change half the class, they learned something, right? And so that's why I do it. It's not, I don't make any money doing it, but I get a lot of joy and satisfaction knowing that those who might be under the radar, at least I can spread the sparkles and show them that it's okay to be you.
Well, guys, we could stay here the whole day talking and talking and talking. But we have to conclude the interview sooner or later. And I want to conclude this with that quote that Angelique just said about the person that she used to work with, that sent the most beautiful email that she ever read. I don't care how much you change on the outside, do not touch the inside, because that's what makes you you.
Yeah, I mean, he was spot on. A guy who writes one-word emails wrote two short paragraphs. But in that encapsulation, he nailed it. That's the truth. And so it's just, you do what makes you happy.
Yeah? Y la gente que habla español, que nos está mirando, les quiero decir también que todos nosotros, no importa si eres chino, latino, portugués, australiano, lo que sea, todos tenemos alguien en nuestras familias que no son como nosotros. Les pido que los entienda y los dé amor, porque comprensión es lo más importante. Y yo también sé que nosotros los latinos, con nuestros machismos, no todos, pero a veces con nuestros machismos no aceptamos nuestras familias como son. Y a veces por eso ellos se deciden sacar su vida a través de suicidio u otras cosas. Entiéndalos, conversen, porque lo más importante de todo es tener el soporte de las personas que están a su vuelta, sus familiares, sus amigos. Well, you understood what I said? I will tell you so you know exactly the whole. I spoke with our Latino community saying that we all have people in our families that might be this or might be that or whatever. And the most important thing is to understand them, give them love, and be supportive of them. Because if we are, lots of tragic outcomes could be prevented.
I'm going to say this. I don't think it's possible in many cases to understand the person, but it's within the power of everybody to accept what that person is telling you. So acceptance is easier than understanding, because I don't think a lot of people are going to understand what happens in my head, what my brain tells me, and every transgender person is different. We're not all the same. We're not, we have one commonality, we're transgender, but everything else intersects with all kinds of different pieces of our lives. So yes, accept what people tell you. Why not? Is it going to hurt you? No. Will it help them? Yes.
So guys, in conclusion, being a transgender, being gay, or whatever other thing, it's not a preference.
No.
Okay? It's not that I prefer, because if I ask what do you prefer, I am sure that most of them would say I would prefer to have differently, so I will not have to deal with whatever. But we are who we are. We are born that way, and we should understand each other for who we are and not for who we wish they were.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah. Nailed it.
Thank you, and until next time.